Leaving a place you've called home for decades is a peculiar kind of shedding. It's not a sudden snap, but a slow, intentional unpeeling of layers you didn't even know that you were wearing. As I look around my home in northern Nevada, a place of high altitude and wide open sagebrush, I realize I'm not just packing up heirlooms and furniture. I'm packing up a version of myself that spent 30 years behind a teacher's desk. This version of Michelle knew exactly where she fit in the ecosystem of a school day. She lived by the bell, the syllabus, and the heavy expectations of a career driven identity. But in June, Scott, the Bayou Boys, Rocky, Elliot, and Buddha, and I will trade this dry, high desert air for the humid, storied streets of New Orleans. We are moving toward the wrought iron history of the French Quarter and the profound joy of being near my first grandson arriving this May. This isn't just a change of address on a piece of mail. It's a pivot towards the presence. It is that moment in the sandwich generation experience where the weight we carry, the needs of our adult children, and the care of our aging parents starts to feel less like a burden and more like a bridge to a softer life. Think of it like a garden in a drought. You've been so busy watering everyone else's soil that your own roots have started to thirst. This move is my way of finally turning the hose toward my own heart. Before we talk about the beauty of this shift, I've placed an anchor for you in the description box below. It's totally free. It's called The Matriarch's Morning Ritual, a guide to a quiet creation. So download it now. It's not a business plan. It's a way to reclaim your first hour of the day so you can navigate your own pivots with a clear heart. If you're new to our circle, welcome to Glimmer and Grace Co. I'm Michelle. I've traded my old lesson plans for a Matriarch Life. I'm here to help you navigate your own graceful pivot toward a life of sophisticated simplicity, supported by the quiet income that allows you to be exactly where you need to be. For a long time, I defined myself entirely by my output. Maybe you're there right now. You're the one everyone leans on. You're the family anchor, navigating the delicate needs of your parents while trying to be the steady North Star for your adult children. It's a season of life that can feel incredibly crowded, leaving very little room for your own glimmers, those small, sparkling moments of joy that remind you who you are. I remember a Tuesday about 5 years ago. I was still in the classroom. My phone was buzzing with a text from one of my daughters about a crisis, and my mind was already racing toward my husband's upcoming doctor's appointments. I was physically present, but spiritually, I was 1,000 miles away, fragmented into a dozen different versions of useful. I was a girl boss of my own domestic chaos, trying to launch the ambitious homemaker brand that I finally gave up on a couple years ago. And it was all so exhausting. Leaving Northern Nevada is my way of saying enough to that noise. In the high desert, the beauty is stark and clear, but it can also be harsh. It demands a lot of you. New Orleans represents something different, a place where life slows down by necessity, where the architecture has character because it has survived the storms, and where sophisticated simplicity isn't just a catchphrase, it's a survival strategy for the heat. It's about learning to move with the rhythm of the day rather than fighting against it. When I talk about the shift, I'm talking about the moment you realize you don't need to hustle, baby, to be relevant. You don't need to grind, girl, to prove your worth. You need a legacy. This move to the Bayou is only possible for me because I've spent the last few years trying to build a portable life. I've created a digital boutique that hums quietly in the background, a collection of digital assets, and the wisdom that serves others while I'm busy packing boxes. Imagine your wisdom is like a fine wine. For years, you've been serving it by the glass to anyone who asks, often for free. Building a digital boutique is like finally bottling that wine. It allows your vetted wisdom to be shared and enjoyed, even when you aren't in the room. This is how we build quiet income. It's not loud, it's not flashy, and it doesn't require you to be a slave to the social media algorithms. But today isn't about the mechanics, it's about the why. We create these digital spaces so that we can be grandmas who stay. We build our quiet income so that when life calls us to New Orleans or wherever your life is calling from, we can say yes without asking for permission from a supervisor or a schedule. This is exactly why I built the Matriarch's morning ritual for you. It takes the complexity of a busy, fragmented life and returns it to a state of sophisticated simplicity. It's the tool that I'm using right now to keep my feet under me while I'm trying to get the inside of this house completely painted over spring break. And the Bayou Boys look at me all confused, hopeful eyes, knowing that something is going on and about to change. There's a specific kind of tension that exists when you are standing between two lives. In northern Nevada, I can look at the Sierras and feel the weight of 30 years of doing, waking up at 4:30 every morning, the early morning school bells, the stacks of grading that followed me home like a shadow, and that constant output required to keep a classroom running smoothly without my every bit of attention. But when I look towards New Orleans, I feel the pull of being. For those of us in the Gen X generation, we've spent so long being the anchor for everyone else that we've forgotten how to let the current take us somewhere new. We are like the old trees I see here in the high desert, hardy, deep-rooted, but a little bit weathered by the constant wind. Moving to the bayou is like being transplanted into richer soil. It's an admission that even a matriarch needs a season to bloom without being pruned by everyone else's demands. Moving at 51 isn't like moving at 22. At 22, you're looking for a career and a climb. At 51, you're looking for a soul match. You're looking for a place where your vetted wisdom is valued. But your time is finally your own. This is the heart of the soft life. And it's not about luxury in the way the world defines it. It's about luxury of choice. It's having the choice to spend a Tuesday morning mapping out a new area in City Park for our dogs to play instead of answering a supervisor's clock. I remember the first time I realized I could actually make this pivot. I was getting over the flu, and I was sitting in bed thinking about our daughter and son-in-law being in New Orleans alone and expecting their first child. I realized that the only thing keeping me in that bed in northern Nevada was a story I was telling myself about duty. But my real duty, my legacy, is to show my 3 adult daughters that life doesn't end at 50. It simply changes its tune. When you're in the middle of a massive pivot, whether it's moving across the country or reclaiming your identity after your kids have left the nest, you need an anchor. You need something that reminds you of who you are before the world tells you who you should be. Without an anchor, the pressures will pull you out to sea. This is why I lean so heavily on my morning practice. It's the only time the house is truly quiet. And yes, I complete mine at 4:30 in the morning right now before I retire, before the Bayou Boys start their morning chorus, and before the demands of the move start pressing in. I created the Matriarch's morning ritual because I realized that if we don't claim our first hour, someone else, a child, a spouse, a boss, certainly will. Think of this ritual as your daily audit. You sit with your coffee, you look at your glimmers for the day, and you decide what deserves your energy. This guide is your way of building a fence around your peace. It's the first step toward that sophisticated simplicity we all crave. It's how I've managed to stay sane while packing up 30 years of a Nevada life. We've been told for decades that if we aren't grinding, we aren't growing. We've been fed the girl boss narrative that says we must be in a constant state of revolution. But as a modern elder, I'm here to tell you that growth happens best in the quiet, reflective spaces. In New Orleans, the gardens are lush because of the humidity and the slow, steady heat, not because someone's forcing them to bloom with a stopwatch. Your next chapter doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be a hustle. It just needs to be honest. For me, honesty looks like admitting that I'm excited and terrified all at once. It looks like acknowledging that while I'm moving to be a grandma who stays for my grandson coming in May, I'm also moving to be the woman who can be the anchor for my family when they need me the most. The quiet income we talk about here on Glimmer and Grace Co., the digital boutique that travels with us, isn't the goal itself. It's the support beam. It's what allowed me to look at my husband, Scott, and say, we have to do this. We can move to the bayou and still be secure. It's what gives us the grace to say, I'm unavailable to the noise, so we can be fully available to the glimmers of our daily lives and to the people that matter most. As we wrap up this conversation today, I want you to visualize something with me. Imagine standing on a wrought iron balcony in the heart of New Orleans. The air is thick and sweet with the scent of jasmine. The city is moving at its own soulful, unhurried pace. You aren't checking your watch. You aren't worried about an overflowing inbox or a meeting that you're late for. You're simply there, present, grounded, and at peace. This is what the shift is really for. We don't build our digital boutiques just to have another job to manage. We build them to create the quiet income that funds our presence in these moments. Whether your balcony is a new city like mine, a quiet garden in the suburbs, or a nursery waiting for their first grandchild, the goal is the same: to live a life of sophisticated simplicity, where you are no longer a slave to a schedule that doesn't recognize your worth. If there's one thing 30 years in the classroom taught me, it's the best lessons aren't the ones that we shout from the front of the room. They're the ones that we live out loud. Moving from Northern Nevada to NOLA is my living lesson. It's me showing my daughters and showing you that it's never too late to pivot. It is never too late to decide that the soft life is yours for the taking. Think of your life like a book. You've finished the chapters on building and providing. Now you're entering the chapter on enjoying and valuing. This is where you take all that vetted wisdom that you've gathered, every struggle, every win, every lesson learned, and you turn it into something that serves others while freeing you. Before you head off to your own version of a soft life, remember this isn't about achieving some state of perfection. It's about progress with grace. We are shedding the roles that we had to play so we can finally step into the ones that we were meant for. We're moving from the hustle to the hum. If this journey resonated with you, I'd love for you to join our circle. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me in the comments, what is the one glimmer that you're holding on to today? Don't forget to lean on the Matriarch's morning ritual that we discussed. You'll find it in the link waiting for you in the description box. Let it be your compass for your own graceful pivot today. As I get back into painting the inside of the house, decluttering, packing the boxes, and dreaming of my retirement coming in June, I'll leave you with this. Find your glimmer today and walk in grace. Bye.